Today we're back with another tier list. I was looking for one that had a wide variety of superhero films that I could rank Marvel against DC against whatever else. And I found one that has a whole heck of a lot of superhero films, and we're going to rank them against each other. I'm going to start with the ones that I haven't seen that aren't on the list and work my way through F tier, D tier, up to A tier and S tier and tell you why I've ranked them where I have. I know it's a lot of fun to watch somebody place each individual film on a list, but some of these lists are so incredibly long, so many to choose from, that it just takes too long and there's too much weighing of why do I want to put this one above this, and you're switching, you're swapping. It just takes so dang long. So most of these ones I haven't seen. There's just no reason for me to see them. There's no reason for me to watch another failed attempt at a Dark Phoenix movie. It's never going to be enough to pack into one movie. You're never going to be able to do it right. I should watch The Incredibles 2. The first one's awesome. Lego Batman I heard was good. Batman in the Lego movie was awesome. But some of these other ones, there's no reason for me to watch Aquaman or Captain Marvel when I've heard basically nothing good about either of those movies. And Megamind's probably good. So we'll start with F tier. At the absolute bottom of the barrel, the worst piece of crap superhero movie of the options available is definitely Fan 4 Stick. Now, Fan 4 Stick just gets like all of the characters wrong. It decides they should all be teenagers. It's just garbage. It's hot garbage. They're mostly just hanging out in one like building, talking to each other in not in a fun way. Like the dialogue's not great. It's just a nightmare. Just absolutely awful. Don't watch it. Catwoman, pretty awful. Don't watch it. Nothing really good about it. The costume's awesome. Like Halle Berry deserved a way better movie, but I mean, she got paid. It's a paycheck. I'm sure she got paid well. Um, then we have one of the most disappointing films in film history, Justice League. Granted, we all knew they were rushing to try to compete with the Avengers film, and they never stood a chance because they had Batman versus Superman and Wonder Woman. Batman versus Superman sucked horribly. Wonder Woman was good, um, but that wasn't enough. Like Wonder Woman and the Flash TV series was not enough to like give you a reason to care about anything in this film. When you're watching a Justice League movie and you don't care about Batman, Superman, Aquaman, Cyborg, then you got a big problem, right? Then you might as well just make a Wonder Woman 2 and just have the Justice League build around her, or have her join the Justice League, right? Um Kind of like in the how the way the boys starts, where Starlight joins the Seven, kind of like that, but obviously not like the boys at all. But yeah, the overall dark DCU direction just didn't work. They didn't go dark enough. They didn't do a good job with these films. They didn't develop the characters, right? Like the fact that you have a Batman versus Superman movie and then a Justice League movie, and you still like know nothing about Batman or Superman. You still like don't understand their characters, what their motivations are. You don't care about anything, right? Like we'll move right on to Batman versus Superman. It's not as horrible as Justice League because it's kind of more of a versus movie. You get plenty of actions, and at least, I mean, you have no character to go off of. You don't care about Batman, and you barely know Superman. But at least within that, it has a little bit of fun. There's a lot of action. They at least fight each other several times in the movie. Not that Justice League doesn't have action. It's just it's terrible. The villain in Justice League is terrible. I mean, the villains in Batman versus Superman are also completely terrible and underdeveloped and no reason to be there, but at least they are mercifully barely in it. Next up, we have X-Men The Last Stand. Just a rushed movie. Just they rushed to get the Dark Phoenix in, and they just started popping off characters like crazy. They should have gone fully wild with it, right? That's why the movie Logan ended up having showing blood, was because this one didn't, and you're just having Dark Phoenix eliminate all these characters, and it has no like weight behind it, and it's not just because of them not wanting to show blood. It's also just like for storyline reasons. It's just not done in an entertaining way. It feels undeserved. It was just a disaster. Somehow less of a disaster than Justice League. I would say X-Men The Last Stand. I wouldn't say don't watch it, but I'm saying watch it with the lowest of expectations. Anything below it, I'm saying do not watch. I think if you really want a clinic on bad filmmaking, watch Suicide Squad, the first one. Because this had, I believe it was one of the most viewed trailers in like YouTube history at the time. Like, this trailer was awesome. It was incredible. It made the movie look like it was just this darker, action-packed, awesome, unbelievably cool movie. But then you watch it and it's not cool at all. All the characters are underdeveloped. You don't actually find any of them cool. Like, you go in expecting to find the Joker to be not cool, because Jared Leto's Joker, even from the trailers, was clearly wildly inferior to Heath Ledger's Joker. But you figured the Joker probably doesn't even come into play in this movie at all. Which the extended cut, when this was released on DVD, it actually has more of the Joker and Harley Quinn, which that alone fixes a lot of the underdevelopment problems, but the film still lacks quite a bit in other areas. So I would say it's pretty much an entire step up. Like, it would probably be top of E tier if it was just for the extended cut, but the theatrical version drags it down. It's really the theatrical version that's in this F tier. Yeah, because the villains are just these like garbage bag, like guys wearing garbage bags, just these black blobs that are vaguely humanoid, like just nothing to them. Like, literally, if you threw garbage bags over random extras and had them get taken out, that's who the squad fights. It's such a dumb, horrible decision making. Like, I don't know how the director thought that would be even remotely okay. A lot of these films need to just have a nope, we're not doing that option. And that would have really helped Suicide Squad. Even if they were just fighting like generic soldiers, that would be a million times better than like garbage bags floating in the wind. Alright. Let's go up to, I believe this one's The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Absolutely terrible. It suffers from a lot of the same problems of Spider-Man 3. I think the Amazing Spider-Man 2 is just a lot more boring than you could ever imagine. They both have too many villains. Spider-Man 3 is a worse film. Like, the stuff with the emo Spider-Man and the fact that they destroyed Venom, had him be so lame and scrawny, is crazy. Such a horrible decision. But you're going to get kind of an entertainment value out of that you're not going to get from The Amazing Spider-Man 2. So yeah, it just ranks slightly higher. Both of these are just clown shows of movies. X-Men Origins Wolverine does a lot of cool things the beginning, like when he's with Sabretooth and they're fighting in all these wars. It's like a montage. That's really cool. I like that quite a bit. But that's like one scene. And there's some other cool stuff. You see some cool X-Men characters. You see Gambit. You see Deadpool. You don't hear from him, but you see him. The movie's not like, people act as though that decision to make Deadpool not talk just tanks the movie, makes it F tier, the worst thing ever. That's not true. It definitely makes the movie suffer, but the movie's watchable, kind of, a little bit. Um, the Hulk movies, the Edward Norton's better than the other one. It's the Hulk. I mean, he's just the Hulk. I don't know how you're ever gonna get like a movie, like an individual, a standalone Hulk movie that's gonna be great. At least like if they were to try with like Mark Ruffalo's Hulk, at least he's in other stuff, so he's developed, so you don't have to like do the typical Hulk origin story kind of crap. So the Hulk, these movies are just from a different time in superhero movie history, and it's hard to make a Hulk movie work. They did a good job, but it's the Hulk. Maybe when CGI is a bit better and there's other factors. I don't know. I think the Hulk needs to work with somebody else. Like Thor Ragnarok was awesome. You have Thor, you have the Hulk. Hulk works well with others, more so than he does alone. Thor: The Dark World and Iron Man 2, both like decent sequels. They don't like totally spit in the face of their original films, but they don't do anything. They're not as good as Iron Man 1 or Thor 1. It is what it is. They're not great. Superman Returns. Superman's a really bland character, and the fact that the movie does nothing with him, it just, you need to do something with Superman. You need to do something with your movie to counterbalance that blandness. And when you just make a bland movie, it highlights the blandness. So it's E tier, well deserved. Sky High, kids superhero movie. They go to like high school. There's some funny jokes. They go a little too over the top. I don't like how like characters' names are also kind of like goofy kid jokes. You already have enough goofy kid stuff. You don't need to like add that layer, because it's just bizarre. The movie would definitely place higher if it wasn't for that. It's an alright movie. There's no reason to go out of your way to see it, but it's okay. Man of Steel, Dark Superman. They should have gone way darker, or at least a little bit darker. Just kind of just disappointing on a lot of levels. The Amazing Spider-Man, the first one with Andrew Garfield, pretty decent Spider-Man movie. He's a little too cool, and yeah, they just needed to make the main actor, Andrew Garfield, less cool, less attractive. I don't know. He's just too cool of a guy. He's too smooth. Even though he like tries to play awkward, they pretty much just put glasses on him and have him be like his regular like charismatic self. And I'm sorry, but you need more than just glasses to be Peter Parker. At least in like in Spider-Man No Way Home, they build up some of that grief and anxiety, and he finally starts to feel like Peter Parker for the first time in No Way Home. And I actually really hope they make an Amazing Spider-Man 3, as Doctor Strange's spell would have resurrected Gwen Stacy, because when she passed, she knew that Andrew Garfield's Peter Parker was Spider-Man, so she would have been brought back to her original world, along with Electro and Andrew Garfield. Bring Gwen Stacy back, make Amazing Spider-Man 3, do it right, bring it on, let's go. Birds of Prey. Birds of Prey was better than it gets credit for. It's a solid standalone Harley Quinn movie. People act like, oh, well, it's not just a Harley Quinn movie, it's the Birds of Prey. Why'd they add these other characters? Even though Harley Quinn is like clearly the main character, these other characters are like barely in it. That complaint just makes no sense. I mean, I could see from like a plot standpoint that you could have you could have gone anywhere else with her, but I don't know. It's just it's a good movie. It's a good movie. Hancock. Hancock's pretty cool. Different kind of superhero movie, different vibe. Definitely worth watching just from a a fan of superhero movies perspective. Like definitely watch it, but don't expect like top tier entertainment. But it's cool. It's a cool movie. Now the first Thor, pretty generic to me. I think maybe I'll actually put it below Hancock, but above Birds of Prey. Like Thor, he's having fun up until he isn't. It does a good job like developing characters that you'll see moving forward. Venom, Venom I liked, but it could have been a lot more. I just I feel like I personally don't like some of the decisions that they made and some of the style choices, but they do a lot of things right. Just personally, it's just not really for me. Now, Daredevil, Daredevil's a pretty cool movie. Um, Definitely of its time as far as a superhero film goes. I would I would recommend it if you're a fan of superhero movies. Check it out if you haven't seen it. It's not going to blow you away, but it does some cool stuff. Michael Clark Duncan's cool. Ben Affleck's cool. Um, what's her face? Jennifer Gardner's cool as Elektra. Colin Farrell as Bullseye or whatever. All right, let's move on to C tier. We got Shark Boy and Lava Girl. Crazy that it's on this list. I mean, they're superheroes for sure. Just just a strange choice. So I'll put it bottom of C tier. It's a kids movie. And we have Blade 1 and 2. I think the third one is just better. The third one just has like more going on. The first two are really cool. Like they give you that like vampire movie, that dark vibe. Definitely underrated superhero films. I think they could do a Blade 4. I assume Wesley Snipes is still alive. Do a Blade 4, Old Man Blade. When I play Marvel Ultimate Alliance, the first one, the really good one, I love playing as Blade. Like we need way more Blade in everything. Bring back Blade. He's awesome. The first Captain America. I feel like it's just a nice movie. Like it, it it has a little bit more than like the first Thor. Um, I just like it more than the first Thor. Really, it has a little bit more story, or I don't know. I guess maybe I don't really know. I just personally like it more than the first Thor. We'll go on to Silver Surfer. Silver Surfer isn't as good as the first Fantastic Four movie, but it's perfectly okay. X-Men First Class. I feel like this one was super disappointing based off the premise of like old X-Men characters, like a prequel movie. There's so many to choose from that it kind of dooms the movie because it's like you're not going to have those older X-Men characters that you want, right? And the problem with the X-Men in general is that there's way too many characters to choose from. It's like its own. It's like if the MCU just also existed but you didn't know which ones to pull from, kind of, if that makes sense. Like there was no way that they could ever have all of the characters that everybody wants, or else you wouldn't have enough of them and no one would care. So they made some choices, and it just ended up weird and kind of disappointing. I I don't know. They hard to really place where they went wrong with that one. The Wolverine, far better than X-Men Origins Wolverine. Cool little side quest for Wolverine. Whereas Origins is more of an origin story, kind of, sort of. You're always going to have stuff about the Wolverine character that isn't developed, right? Like the character's like 200 years old or whatever by the time he's really doing stuff with the X-Men, if I remember correctly. So having him, he's kind of built to have these like side quest movies. You can almost just continue to do them. And I think The Wolverine was a cool side quest. If I was making a Wolverine side quest movie, I would have done something different. And I think everyone would have done something a little different than everybody else. I like it. I think it's underrated, but it's not like top tier. I'm not going overboard. I'm not going crazy. Um Ghost Rider, really cool. Nicolas Cage. Who doesn't love Nicolas Cage? And he's a skull who's rides like a flaming motorcycle. Flaming skull, just super cool. Just a recipe for a solid movie. I haven't seen the second one. I really should. Like that's probably, if I was to rank the superhero movies I should see, that's up there. Probably maybe even at the top. X-Men Days of Future Past, really cool. Really kind of revitalized the franchise in a super weird way. It's got old characters, it's got new characters, it's got time travel, it's got Quicksilver doing really cool stuff. Um, you just get a lot of bang for your buck with Days of Future Past. Hellboy 2, I see as kind of like one film. Like they're both good. I think I like the Golden Army a tiny bit better. Just the like secondary characters I find a lot more interesting in Hellboy 2. Whereas Hellboy 1, they kind of, I mean, they do get their time to shine, but they get just more of it, and you care a little bit more in Hellboy 2. Ant-Man, I think, is one of the most underrated MCU movies. No question about it. It's fun. It's funny. He's going tiny. He's doing wacky stuff. I don't know what people's issue is with it, right? Like, it's solidly cast. It's a good movie. It's better than a lot of MCU movies. It's way better than the first Captain America. Way better than the first two Thor movies. Way better than Iron Man 2. It's no question. No question about it. Obviously, we'll talk about movies that, like MCU movies that are better than it, of course, but it's very solid. Um, I actually put these in the wrong place. So the first Ant Man is better than Ant Man and the Wasp. I'll just swap those real quick. And Ant Man is better than Batman Forever. People really dunk on Ant Man and the Wasp, but I don't see what their issue is. You have the Wasp. Like Ant Man and the Wasp are Avengers. So what is your problem with them being developed as characters and getting to do cool Ant Man and Wasp stuff? They're turning tiny, they're turning big, you know. Get over whatever your hang up is, you weirdo. Batman Forever, a lot of fun, has a little bit of that campiness, but it's really Really cool. You got Jim Carrey as the Riddler, Tommy Lee Jones as Two-Face. It balances that kind of classic camp of Batman and this like newer, the like edgier style, darker style of the newer Batman. It does a really good job. Fantastic Four, the original, really solid. Just it allows you to get to know like each of the Fantastic Four and their motivations. It does a good job. It better than it ought to be for the time it came out. Constantine, I haven't seen since I was a kid. I remember liking it quite a bit. I imagine it holds up similarly. Watchmen was really cool, but I feel like it was a lot of storyline in one movie, and I don't necessarily like that. It could have been I feel like it should have been two movies. I don't know how you could have done that. I'm not familiar enough with the property to just throw out an idea, and there's not enough. It's like there's not enough in the movie to just split it right in two, but I'm sure there's enough within the like graphic novel or whatever to do that. It's just I don't have that knowledge, and I feel like the movie kind of suffers a tiny bit because of that. And it's really cool though, like it's on the cusp of being that like S tier movie. It just doesn't quite get it done. The first Iron Man, iconic. People give this movie so much credit for launching the MCU and launching this superhero trend of blockbuster movies. And yeah, it propelled what a superhero movie could be, and it made it crystal clear to somebody like me who always knew that eventually this trend of superhero movies, that these studios would catch on and see what superhero movies can be and what they should be, and that they should have this big budget behind them and these really good effects, and that the technology is there to make these things come to life, and that they should be doing this because these characters have so much story, so many books, comic books, but so many books. Like if you count like 5 comics as its own book, then these characters have books and books and books, stacks of books written about them with all these different characters to pull from and such a rich history that it was so obvious to me upon seeing this Iron Man movie that we're in a new era, that superhero movies are coming in a big bad way. Now I didn't think that it would become what it became, where they're like the only blockbusters for like 10 years. I didn't think it would be that big, but I definitely saw where they could be blockbuster movies. And obviously like the fan base was there. There was like these characters were huge before the MCU. They became bigger, but they were still huge. X-Men, the first one, just awesome. Just this does a really good job introducing so many of these X-Men characters, and especially Wolverine. Wolverine is just the centerpiece of X-Men, right? And they do such a good job. Like casting Hugh Jackman was just incredible. Just his face is he just has the look, even though he's not like hunched over and he's not wearing the costume that he should be. It still just works so well, and that's what they focus on, Wolverine, and that's what you have to do, and they do a good job. Next we have a very controversial placement: Batman and Robin. Now this movie, similar to Batman Forever, it's the Batman movie that comes after Batman Forever. Different guy playing Batman. It's actually George Clooney in Batman and Robin. If you haven't seen this, you gotta see it. It is Camp City. Like they just intentionally made a B movie and just went all out with it. Just all out with it in an insane way. The movie's lunacy. The movie's kind of terrible, but it's a B movie, so it's supposed to be terrible. Like, you'd be out of your mind if you don't think that the like director and the actors, when they're shooting this, realize it's completely insane. It's meant to be over the top. It's Batman. It's Batman and Robin. They're over the top characters. Like, not everything needs to be the Dark Knight. Batman can be fun. You can have a fun movie, and this does a good job. It's got Mr. Freeze. It's got Poison Ivy. It's got Bane. And Bane like drives a car and he's growling like a lunatic. It's hilarious. There's so much entertainment value with Batman and Robin. I could literally make an argument for putting it in A tier, but I think it belongs in B. And it's a B movie. It makes a lot of sense. Now Blade Trinity. Blade goes up against like, I think Ryan Reynolds dual wields katanas. Like, Ryan Reynolds almost is Deadpool in this movie. Like, I'm pretty sure just as in X-Men Origins Wolverine, Ryan Reynolds is literally Deadpool in that movie, but this like stupid version. Um in Blade 3, Ryan Reynolds, I'm pretty sure, dual wields katanas at a certain point, and that's crazy. Um I could be wrong, but people have a fan theory that Ryan Reynolds in Blade Trinity just is Deadpool. And it will not like fully Deadpool powers and stuff, but like, I don't know, it doesn't really make sense, but it's a cool it's a cool idea. Some of these fan theories and head canons, you gotta kind of twist the logic. But I mean, this is superhero stuff. You're allowed to do that. It's craziness. But yeah, Blade Trinity, Blade like fights Triple H. It's wild stuff, but it's not like totally goofy. Like, it still is cool. It still is a Blade movie, and it's a lot of fun. All right, as we continue with our really good superhero movies, we have the first Sam Raimi Spider-Man. Just a solid, really solid Peter Parker here. Obviously, with it being the first live action Spider-Man movie, and CGI not being as developed as it is with every movie that came after it, every Spider-Man movie that came after it, it's kind of held back a little bit. It does a really good job. And people say, oh, well, Tobey Maguire's the best Spider-Man. Or, I mean, he's the best Peter Parker. Um, a lot of that's due to not just Tobey Maguire himself, but everyone involved in the film. The film does a lot of really good stuff, and I like it a lot. Spider-Man: Far From Home. Um, let's be honest here. Tom Holland is a better Spider-Man, but that's mostly just because the films are way better. CGI advanced a lot better, so like the motion, there's a lot more of a kinetic motion to him. CGI just opens the door to so much stuff, which is super critical to Spider-Man, right? Like, Spider-Man is this superhero who's incredibly agile, who has a spider sense, like a premeditation, whatever you want to call it. So he sees danger coming. Like, this guy is a speedster. He's webbing around. He's just able to move in such a incredible way. And then they take that to an even higher level by having him enhanced by like Tony Stark's technology. So he's just able to do such cool stuff. So having that ability to have the character actually do that in the movies just elevates it so much. And just so much more like just it's just better. It's the problem with with the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies, I feel like is the relationship between him and Mary Jane. It feels very forced, whereas Tom Holland and Zendaya just have this like natural chemistry. Even the friendship between Tobey Maguire and like James Franco in the Sam Raimi movies feels forced and like not real and like weird. Whereas just like Tom Holland just bounces off of other actors so well. And he like actually is a teenager and stuff. And like he like looks really young and he's just this like fun Spider-Man. It just works so much better. Just the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies are just clearly better for so many reasons. No, like I love the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies. I love Sam Raimi. Evil Dead 2 is my favorite horror film of all horror films. And I've been into horror films intensely since I was a young child. So, like, I'm sorry, but Tom Holland Spider-Man movie is way better. That being said, you can now see that in A tier there is Spider-Man 2, the Sam Raimi. Deadpool 2, we'll talk about that first. It's not as good as Deadpool 1, but it comes close. It does some cool stuff. It has funny jokes. It's what you want out of a Deadpool movie. Like I feel like you'd be kind of crazy to expect it to reach the level of the first one. The first one was like the highest earning, most successful R-rated movie in American history. Like that's insane. That's an insane feat. To duplicate that would be wild. Would be nearly impossible. And Deadpool 2 is a really cool movie. This woman where her superpower is that she's super lucky. Like that's awesome. That's really cool. Guardians of the Galaxy 2, it's nearly as good as the first one, but the first one had more to overcome, right? You had these characters, these nobodies, these like E-list Marvel characters who I had never even heard of, being a Marvel fan my entire like life. Never heard of the guys until the movie, and then it became this huge thing where there's 3 movies and they're like a key part of like the Avengers films. And the second one, it's just not quite as good. It's great though. It's very great. Honestly, it's spectacular. The Incredibles, definitely way better than what you'd ever expect it to be. If you have not seen The Incredibles, go out and see The Incredibles. Well, maybe not go out. Stay home and see The Incredibles. You know what I mean. Watch The Incredibles. Um, X-Men 2. Now, this one I haven't seen in a long time. So it's clearly the best of those first 3 X-Men movies. But I remember it just being like well balanced. Um, yeah, I'd have to rewatch it to really get too deep into it. But it was just good. It was just better than the other 2. Awesome, awesome movie. You got Nightcrawler. Nightcrawler was like shockingly good in it. Like I feel like the definitive cool awesome Nightcrawler is in this movie. Spider-Man 2, Sam Raimi, just Doc Ock, actually having him like build the friendship with Peter Parker, and then it crumbles. And you actually like genuinely get the feeling that Doc Ock just has the upper hand on Peter. And that he's like, they actually make him like be be competitive with Spider-Man. Like he's actually just beaten Spider-Man throughout, and that's just really cool to see. Um, to actually have the impression that maybe the bad guy's just gonna win is definitely uncommon, especially with superhero movies up until that point. So that it's just always going to make the movie more entertaining. Really, really cool movie. Wonder Woman, clearly the best DCEU movie. Just, it's what Wonder Woman is exactly the movie that they needed to duplicate with Batman and Superman and Aquaman. You know, Cyborg maybe. Who cares about Cyborg? Wonder Woman just a good movie. Just a darn good movie. I gotta stop scrolling this around. Sorry. I'm trying to do a slow reveal, but I'm so used to using the scroll wheel for everything. So it's just too aggressive. I need a less sensitive scroll wheel. Doctor Strange. They don't have the second Doctor Strange movie, but they got this one. It's A tier. Again, it just does a lot of cool stuff. They actually utilize his powers of magic, have him do a huge variety of things. They use what the character is to do cool things with the film, with the filmmaking. Just having the character do what the character would be doing, what he should be doing, lends itself to a really cool film. And plus they also give him like a good backstory, which is before he has the powers, so it just makes you connect with the character more. They do a really good job of that. I see why a lot of people consider this to be the best MCU movie, and I can see why. It has everything to do with the character development and the portrayal, and just how seamlessly the movie flows, and it's well balanced. Wonder Woman is also well balanced. I put these films right next to each other, but Doctor Strange is just a cooler character. Like Wonder Woman in a lot of the older superhero movies, meaning like Superman, Batman. I mean characters, not movies, but they're they don't have as like complexes of powers that like some of these Marvel characters have. So it's impressive that Wonder Woman is as good as it is, whereas Doctor Strange kind of lends itself to being a really cool film. Not saying it's necessarily easy to make a really good Doctor Strange movie, but it does lend itself more because the guy just has so many cool powers. There's so many things you can do with him, which, as we've seen with let's say some Star Wars movies, where you have all this undefined reality of a theoretical space universe. You could do anything, and they do some of the dumbest stuff you've ever seen in your life. Batman Returns, both really, really cool Batman movies. A cut above Forever and Batman and Robin. Just really stylistically interesting and fitting of Batman. The thing is, there's so many different versions of Batman. Like Batman's been around for like 100 years. There's so much content there. One of the biggest strengths of Batman is his villains. He has probably the best set of villains of any superhero out there. Just these lunatics, right? So that's the strength of the Batman character. And that's kind of why like I consider putting Batman Returns above Batman Begins, because Batman Begins really focuses on one villain, and that's why clearly the Dark Knight Rises is above Batman Begins, because Dark Knight Rises has Catwoman, has Bane, and Bane is like iconic. People still quote Bane to this day, and they do the impression, right? Like the Dark Knight Rises gets pooped on a lot because it didn't have an actor die in the like after the filming of the movie, between the filming and the movie's release. An actor didn't die, right? So that therefore it's not as good as The Dark Knight, and it's absolute crap, F tier, because of that, which is just so insane to me. Like The Dark Knight Rises was really cool. Bane and what he does is really cool. Like he defeats Batman in a multitude of ways. The portrayal of Bane is really, really cool. They get a lot of things very right. And yeah, I don't know what people's issue is with with the Dark Knight Rises. It's awesome. It's almost as good as The Dark Knight. Like it is just barely behind The Dark Knight. It's better than Batman Begins. Batman Begins is kind of standard in a lot of ways, and I feel like you get almost more character development of Batman in Dark Knight Rises than you do in Batman Begins. Nothing against Batman Begins, it just isn't as good as The Dark Knight Rises. Thor Ragnarok, just super cool. They throw in Hulk, and it works. It works really well. And Thor just has a lot to do in the movie. They give him a lot to do. It's awesome. Cool music, cool use of colors. Just a colorful, awesome Thor movie. Just the style was there. Obviously, they failed to duplicate it. They tried everything they could to duplicate it with the fourth Thor movie. They failed. You know, I think we all kind of in the back of our minds knew that they would fail, and they did. But Ragnarok, incredible. Black Panther, I'm very shocked that they didn't make a Black Panther movie before they made an Ant-Man movie, because the Black Panther, I feel like it is a B-list Avenger, whereas Ant-Man is like a C-list Avenger. But yeah, the Black Panther, they knocked it out of the park. We all kind of knew that they would. Like if there was any Avengers, if there's any MCU movie that you don't go halfway into making, into producing, it's Black Panther, right? You may as well make a great movie, and they did. Like think about how cool Andy Serkis is in the Black Panther. Think about how cool the character Killmonger is, right? Like you literally, it's totally reasonable to watch that movie and think, oh my god, like they're gonna this Michael B. Jordan character is awesome, and he's right, and he should win, and he should become the Black Panther. I mean, he basically is the Black Panther in the movie. Like he literally is. But it's like, yeah, he should win. Enough of this T'Challa guy. Like this Killmonger guy has things right. And that's cool. Like the fact that in the movie, the villain, you root for him in so many ways, and the fact that they have this whole other villain in Andy Serkis, and he's so memorable and awesome, and then you have like the Monkey King guy who's has so much presence in his own right. It's a banger. It's awesome. It's really hard to do better than the Black Panther. Like it's crazy to make a better superhero movie than the Black Panther. It truly is, and that's why I don't have much above it. A lot of people would say Black Panther top of S. I'm not one of those people. Now, immediately after it, I have possibly the most controversial pick I have on this list, and that is Avengers Age of Ultron. A lot of people say this is totally terrible. I don't see how you could have that perspective, right? It's not as good as the first Avengers. Okay, that's fine. But what is the issue with it? You have a really cool villain who's the robot, and yeah, he's Ultron, and he's rushed, and he's weird. But is that really that big of an issue? Like the villain in the first Avengers film is Loki, the god of mischief. This goofy guy who's telling jokes. So just because Ultron's telling jokes and he's a robot and he's kind of like an infant and he doesn't know what his motivations are, like is it really that big of an issue that he doesn't know what his motivations are? Because a lot of the time with say Loki, we don't know what Loki's motivations are. He just loves mischief, right? We don't understand the Loki character. Like I just watched season 2 of Loki. I don't know what's going on with this guy, man. So, I don't know. To me, Ultron in this movie is a way better villain than Loki is in the first Avengers. Way better. Way more interesting. Cooler powers. And what's the issue here? You get Iron Man, you get Captain America, you get Thor, you get the Hulk, you get Black Widow, Hawkeye, like Nick Fury, you get the Scarlet Witch, you get Quicksilver. Like it just gives you everything you want. Like you get another incredible Avengers movie. I don't know what people's issue is. No, like issue. I've never heard an issue other than, oh, Ultron is a weird villain. Like that wasn't a good villain. The entire MCU is known to have like crappy villains for the most part. It's like a meme, it's a trend, it's something people understand and accept. And Ultron's not that bad, so it's like just that criticism makes no sense to me, especially when like one of the coolest moments in that entire film is with Thor in the woods, right? Like he's fighting people, he's you know, you get like one of the coolest Thor movies across all of the Thor stuff. I don't know. It's a solid movie. It just is. People are wrong. They're dead wrong. Iron Man 3 was really cool because it separates Iron Man from his suits for a lot of the movie. You just get to know the character, and he's very flawed, and he has issues that he's dealing with, and he grows, and it's a really nice movie and really good. One of the coolest superhero movies because of that aspect, because you're taking so much away from him, and it's so simple but so hard to pull off, where you take his suit away. Spider-Man Homecoming, just great, just ridiculously great. They knocked it out of the park. To actually like have Peter Parker like be a young person and have that vibe, that energy of a young person. Like it's not just, oh, this person looks older. It's there's a whole like energy and presence about it. And I feel like not only does Tom Holland do a good job of giving that presence and giving that look, and the director presenting that look, but it also goes into like the writing and the storytelling aspect of not just like visually, but allowing him to be that teenager in the movie, and as he's Spider-Man, he's behaving like a teenager, and that's really important to the character. It just adds this like fun to the franchise that was just slightly lacking in other versions of Spider-Man. Now, Joker was super cool. I couldn't have really ever imagined that I would like a Joker as much as I liked Heath Ledger's Joker in The Dark Knight, but Joaquin Phoenix in Joker was awesome. Like he hit it. He hit the mark. Really cool movie. Just dark, intense, well made. Like I don't know what keeps it out of S tier for me because I like everything about it pretty much. It just these other movies just they just hit the mark harder. But top of A tier is incredibly high. To actually make that good of a movie of the most oversaturated Batman villain. I guess really if you think about it, the most oversaturated villain in superhero film history, right? Like there's a lot of Batman movies and this guy is the villain in a lot of them. And like even like animated movies, TV shows, Joker is a go-to DC villain. And to actually like do something new and bring so much to the character and to tell a like story. Yeah, I know they rip some of the story from like King of Comedy and other stuff, but they still do a great job of it. It's a little weird that De Niro's and like that he's like stars in King of Comedy and then he's in Joker, but whatever. Like if anybody can rip off something, it's somebody ripping off themselves, you know. Let's move up to S tier. Just legendary, just absurdly, ridiculously good superhero movies. The best of the best. This one's also quite underrated. Captain America, The Winter Soldier. It's more so that it's just a really well made film and it just has really good action and like physicality to it. And it also develops the characters of Captain America and the Winter Soldier and the Falcon, Sam Wilson. It's just it does so much right from a filmmaking perspective. I think that's why it's underrated. People kind of have a hard time seeing characters outside of what they think that character should be, that they lose sight of what makes a good film and why people might enjoy a film. Next up, we got Avengers, the first one. People give this movie way too much credit. I know I'm placing it in S tier and saying this, but it gets way too much credit. It's like, oh, this is a masterpiece. So many people would place this like top of S tier. And I feel like that you could only do that based off of like personal feelings. And I find that to be a little ridiculous because it's not like the people who made this film or the people who star in it really did something like super out of the box and super impossible and unpredictable. We never could have seen this happening kind of thing, right? Like that's insanity to have that mindset because anybody who understands what the Avengers are and what the films were leading up to saw that this was clearly going to happen. Yes, they did a very good job of it, but it wasn't like earth-shattering, mind-blowing stuff. They just did what they were supposed to, and what they were supposed to was make a good Avengers film, and they did, and it's awesome. There's nothing wrong with it. It's great. It's flat out great. Next up, we have Logan, the highest rated, besides Deadpool, X-Men franchise sort of movie. Logan was just incredible. When it came out, everybody was talking about it. Everyone went to go see this. It finally had Wolverine like slicing people up and it's showing blood and it's crazy. And it's just also like developed the character in really interesting ways and kind of developed the world around him and let you know what he's been through, and they did a great job. I still haven't seen the black and white version of the movie. I want to. Apparently it's just as good, if not better, in black and white. That's really cool. But I think they even played it in theaters. Like there were certain theaters where you could go see this movie in black and white. Like that's crazy. Think about how wild that is. When do we ever get a movie where it's like you can see a black and white version? It literally like never happens. The only other time that we've gotten like an alternative cut of a movie is the Snyder cut. And like to actually have I mean just putting it in black and white is nowhere near what happened with the Snyder cut. But it's the only time you're getting like another cut of a movie, and to actually have that with something that isn't an absolute stinker piece of garbage worthless movie like Justice League, something where it's actually you're getting a great movie either version that you see, that's incredible. Like that just goes to show how great and cool and awesome of a movie this is. Then we got The Dark Knight, easily the most overrated, um just as overrated as the Avengers, probably like potentially more overrated is The Dark Knight. Obviously it's awesome. It's the only DC movie in my S tier. Nothing else, like only Joker. Joker's the only thing that comes anywhere close to S tier out of DC movies. And there is a lot of Batman movies. Clearly The Dark Knight is the best. There are some things wrong with it though, right? Some glaring things wrong with it. Think back to South Park making fun of the movie where they're doing the voice, the like deep growly voice. That's because in the movie he's kind of monologuing to himself a little too much. It gets a little weird with that. Two-Face, there's no reason for Two-Face to be there. He's there and gone, which is dumb. Why'd you spend so much time building up Two-Face for him to just be wiped out like he's nothing? Just like the movie's great, but it's not the greatest superhero movie. It just isn't. There might even be other ones that aren't on this list that I would place higher than it. We'll move right along to Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which is clearly better than The Dark Knight. All of these that are above it clearly are. There's like no question in my mind. Into the Spider-Verse, just great. Just everything about it was enjoyable. Great music, cool animation, solid story. It's got Spider-Man, it's got Miles Morales. It got more it has more punch than you would ever anticipate it to have. Just blew me out of the water when I saw it. Anytime I've rewatched it, I'm like, this is great. Like I've probably watched it like 4 times since it came out. And each time I'm like, yeah, this movie's awesome. Whereas I feel like the third time I watched The Dark Knight, I'm like, all right, I'm okay if I never see this again in my life. Like maybe I'll revisit this like 10, 15 years from now, but there's no real reason for me to. Guardians of the Galaxy came out of nowhere, took some D-list or E-list or even lower list Marvel characters, just came out of nowhere with this monster of a great movie to make not only the Guardians of the Galaxy household names, but to have like the greatest film, this big huge film The film that everyone talked about in 2014. Like, this movie deserved like an Oscar for Best Picture for 2014. Like, are you kidding me? This movie is so ridiculously good. The Star Lord is just incredible. Drax is incredible. Rocket and Groot are incredible. Gamora, incredible. Like, she's making fun of Star Lord. They're all making fun of Drax. Like, there's so much comedy and charm to all of these characters. Just super, super, super cool. Like, people to this day. I mean, this is gonna be a crazy statement, but they're still quoting it to this day, especially with "I am Groot." Now, obviously, he says "I am Groot" in the other movies, but really, when they started quoting it was in this movie, and it's really where what stands out. The best "I am Groot" moments, the best Groot moments, are in the first Guardians of the Galaxy, and yeah, this is household names. Just this just came out of nowhere. It was incredible. Deserves all the credit in the world. They killed it. Next up, we have Deadpool. Deadpool is it's perfect. It's a comedy. It's everything it should be. I love that it has this like it doesn't have the like super high budget feel that a lot of these other movies have. Obviously it is high budget and so much effort and love went into it, but it doesn't have that like super flashy crutch that a lot of other movies have. Like, there's no way you're watching Avengers Infinity War and it like Endgame or Civil War and not like getting tons of entertainment just out of the visuals of it, just out of the sheer money that they're throwing out of it, right? Like, Deadpool doesn't have that leg to stand on, and it just knocks it out of the park. Just a perfect movie, hilarious, great action. It's just purely great. The only movies that beat it out are ones that are a bit more superhero-y. They just give you more superheroes, right? Like, if Deadpool had the budget, had the characters, if in Deadpool you had Spider-Man showing up, you had Wolverine showing up, you know, it if you had the ability to elevate the action to that next level, then it maybe beats everything. Then maybe it just demolishes everything. Because in so many ways, it is the strongest superhero film ever made. But it's just in a few tiny ways, it's getting beat out. Captain America Civil War. I've seen people place this in like A tier, B tier, C tier. That's insane. Like B tier, C tier for Civil War. Now, granted, Civil War is just action. It's mostly just action. But what else are you gonna do? You literally have the Avengers fighting each other. Why would it not be mostly action? That's dumb, right? Like in Justice League, when you have them fighting Superman, it's so like quick and lame, and so like just lacks energy. I mean, yeah, it's kind of cool when like the Flash is running around and Superman like looks over at him. That's really cool, but that's like one moment in all of the action scenes in Justice League. Whereas Civil War, you get tons of incredible moments. Like, I can, just thinking about it, picture it in my mind. You have Spider-Man showing up and webbing away Captain America's shield. You have Scarlet Witch doing her stuff. You have Vision doing his stuff. You don't have the Hulk, which I kind of understand why. It could have used the Hulk. If it had the Hulk, that alone might put it above, might put it literally top of S tier. Crazy to say. It actually probably wouldn't, but add some Hulk in there, and this gets real crazy. But no, think about like Black Panther showing up, and he scratches the shield. Ant-Man turning giant at the airport. Just so much cool stuff's packed in. I think Thor also wasn't in Civil War. Just tons of action, tons of character development. The characters have to choose sides. They have to choose sides not only based off of like who they personally like more, whose side they're on more of, Captain America or Iron Man, but like what they really believe in. Do they believe that Captain America is right and that you have to stand up for the people you care about and what you think is truly right? Or is Iron Man right, where we need to abide by the law here and like law and order kind of thing, right? So it challenges all of its characters physically, emotionally, mentally. It's really cool. I don't see what people don't like about it. It's it's a versus movie, but it's a bunch of people versing each other repeatedly. It's incredible. It's everything I wanted it to be and more. The action was better than I expected. The movie was cooler than I expected. Captain America Civil War. It's not a better movie than Winter Soldier. Winter Soldier is a better made film in terms of filmmaking, but Civil War, it's a better superhero movie. It's it's an S tier. It's a top S tier. Now the real heavy hitters, the ones that are obvious, the ones that should be top of S tier for basically everybody. You'd be a lunatic not to put either of these films in S tier. Is Endgame and Infinity War. Now, I see a lot of people like will throw Endgame down quite a bit. Infinity War, I feel like the public perception is that Infinity War is clearly S tier, like clearly top of S, number one, no question. I don't really, I don't really buy that. Endgame is incredible. They wrap up the story in such a nice and beautiful way, giving several characters really nice endings, even though like some of them die. Um, just really epic stuff, man. Infinity War. Everything I said about the Civil War is like even amplified in Infinity War, even though they're mostly going up against Thanos and his goons. They all like have to go all out in a way that they kind of can't in Civil War. Um, yeah, Infinity War just balances a lot of characters, and they have to go all out to stop Thanos, and it's just incredibly cool. Don't know what else to say. Pretty obviously the best Infinity War. Endgame is very close. It is like right there. Its problem is mainly the lack of characters. Like, that is kind of what it comes down to. Infinity War has more characters, and some of them don't make it into Endgame and beyond Endgame. And that's kind of awesome. It's really cool that they were willing to do that. Um, to actually like make an ending to so many of these characters who are like mega successful, who people just love and care about. It was it was surprising, and I kind of hope they never really undo it, right? And because they don't need to. You literally have all this like multiverse crap post Endgame. If you want Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark to show up, guess what? You have a million multiverses to pull from. You want you want Chris Chris Evans to show up as Captain America, or even as like Johnny Blaze, the Human Torch. Do it. Do it at the same time. That'd be cool. You can. You have the tools to do it. You want to bring back like who was that who played Quicksilver, like Borat or whoever? Bring him on. Like definitely bring back Scarlett Johansson as the Black Widow. That'd be the smartest choice. Um, don't know how you do it. No one knows what's even going on with kind of the superhero landscape, right? Like we just had the Marvels drop and it bombed epically, and the DC movies are a hot mess. The Marvel movies are a hot mess. There's this whole wide landscape, and no, it's like there's this huge fog and no one knows what's going to happen next. I kind of hope that it continues to be this disaster, this like nightmare, where we still get a couple here and there. Like you get a Spider-Man No Way Home, or like Guardians 3, where you get these like really cool movies here or there, but then you get all these like terrible ones. I hope we get like really deeply terrible movies, superhero movies, for at least like maybe 2-3 years. Then we get back to really good stuff. And I don't think it'll ever be the trend that it has been over the last 10 years. I don't see that happening where it's just dominating the box office. But I think you will sporadically have superhero films that will be dominating the box office. I think they've earned their spot. And we should at least have two a year that are two of the best movies each and every year. Just maybe not have Marvel like cranking out like four a year, because the interest just isn't gonna consistently be there, and you can kind of spend more time and focus more on like what you're doing and how you're gonna develop these things, and like what's going on with X-Men. Are you gonna integrate the X-Men? Just have like some of your characters go to a different dimension. I don't know what you're gonna do, but we all want to see the X-Men interact with the other Marvel characters. It's been too long and too weird to not have them. Like a lot of these, like we want to see the X-Men fighting the Avengers. We want to see the X-Men working with the Avengers. We want to see Wolverine fight the Hulk. We want to see Deadpool fight Wolverine. I've seen like pictures of Hugh Jackman in like a blue and yellow like Wolverine costume next to a fully suited up Deadpool. I don't know if that's like, if is something like that being filmed. I don't even know. I've just seen it on social media. But yeah, hopefully we get that. Hopefully we get some cool stuff. Hopefully DC and Marvel can figure their stuff out. And I really want to see a DC movie reach the heights of The Dark Knight and beyond, because that can happen. And it eventually will happen. I just hope it happens like in my lifetime. That'd be pretty sweet. Especially with, like I said, the strength of Batman is his villains. You've got so much room to to work here, right? Like, granted, if the movie The Batman, where Robert Pattinson plays Batman, it would maybe make S tier. It was incredible. It's like right there with the Joker movie, where you have Batman and he's actually doing detective stuff, and the world actually feels like dark and grimy, and you actually get the feeling that Batman for once is fighting villains in a place that in an area that maybe needs somebody to fight these crimes. You know what I mean? Anyway, that was my list of a whole lot of superhero films, not all of them. I don't think any list will truly ever have all of them, but I hope you liked it, and hope we can talk more about some superheroes, because I love them.